Hey, I'm Mike Gilliam, and welcome to Let It Rip. There's a new administration in the city, but the honeymoon for Mayor Eric Adams has been a short one. The mayor and his administration are confronted by a number of challenges, including rebounding from the pandemic, shoring up the city's economy, and battling crime. We'll take a look at the surge of violent crime. We'll also delve into another issue that has landed countless minority men and women in jail: the sale and use of cannabis or marijuana, and how the substance, which is now legal in the state, can provide a way to a better and brighter future. I'm Mike Gilliam, and this is Let It Rip. Perhaps the most pressing issue Mayor Eric Adams campaigned on is reducing violent crime. Pick up any paper in the city, and you'll see crime story after crime story. Many of them involve attacks in our neighborhoods and on our streets, with some of the most alarming on the city's subways, where major crime is up 61%. The crimes are horrible. 2 police officers shot and killed in the line of duty. A homeless man charged with murder after allegedly pushing 40-year-old Michelle Go in front of an oncoming train in Times Square. That strikes fear in the hearts of New Yorkers. Over a recent 48-hour period in the transit system, 6 people were stabbed across the city, while another was set upon by a man with a hatchet, and a woman was beaten with a metal pipe. The mayor has taken action, rolling out a plan to get more cops and social workers into the subways. But will it be enough? Or are there issues that need to be addressed that cannot be handled by just throwing more police officers and social workers at the problem? Here to take a look at the problem, we have 2 guests. Jibreel Jalloh, the president of the Flossy organization, created to empower Canarsie residents and bring more resources to the community. And the vice president of the Guardians Association and an NYPD detective, Eric Blake. This is Let It Rip. Eric, let's start with you. You're on the front lines. Where do you think the problem lies? Why this surge in crime?
Well, let's think about 3 things. The pandemic, as we mentioned earlier. Then you think about the lack of access to resources. And number 3, the distrust that our community has with law enforcement. I look at the pandemic for the mere fact that we've been locked in our house. We've been in the homes for how long? 2 years, a year and a half. It builds a restlessness, so to speak. Now you're out and about. Then you think about the access to resources that are there. However, there's so many loopholes, so many hurdles that have to be climbed. And by the time you get to it, guess what? A lot of that stuff is depleted. And then you think about the trust that we have in the community with the department. Most people feel it's easier to handle those things on their own than to reach out to a police officer or a law enforcement official to get some resolution. And I think when you compile all that together, it leads to like a fight or flight type of situation, whereas what can I do? I'll handle it myself. Automatically increases it.
But a lot of people say that those people who are committing those crimes shouldn't be on the streets anyway, and they shouldn't be in jail. They should actually be in mental institutions and getting that kind of help. Is that part of this?
I mean, it can be, but it really is our community. You ever heard the phrase, it takes a village to raise. You know, when you think about it, if we all work collaboratively, guess what? That person who we feel shouldn't be in the community, that person who we feel has a mental issue, maybe if we talk to that person, had a conversation with that person on a regular basis, gave that person someone that could say, hey, I know this person. I know Eric Blake. He's a good guy. If I'm feeling down, I could reach out to Eric Blake. If the entire community did that, I think it would be a lot less of that as a concern.
Jibreel, what do you think about that?
That's a good point by Eric. I just think we need to get at the root causes of these issues. Why does this person dealing with mental health challenges in the first place? Is it something that had to do with their childhood? Is it something that the education system could have solved earlier on? I think when we discuss these issues, we try to intervene when it's already too late, when the person is already on the train, deranged, thinking about pushing another New Yorker on the tracks. By that time, society has already failed them. I think we need to really get at the root causes of these issues. And of course, Eric brought it up before, the pandemic exacerbated a lot of things that we're talking about. Folks are out of jobs, folks are dealing with stresses at home, and that all amplifies the root causes of violence. You know, poverty is rising because of the pandemic. Again, people are out of jobs because of the pandemic. It's just a lot more stresses that society is dealing with. And we're dealing with the 1 in a century pandemic. We need society, we need the government to react in a one-in-a-century type of action, one-in-a-century type of investment to stop the effects of the pandemic that we're going to be dealing with for years to come. We may be, the virus may be, receding back, but the effects of it we're going to be dealing with a long time. So we just really need to address this one-in-a-century pandemic and all the effects of it with the one-in-a-century type of investment into our communities.
Now, the mayor is putting more cops into the subways. He's putting social workers into the subways. He wants to bring back the anti-gun units, though they will be in uniform this time around. Is the mayor on the mark with the way he's attacking this problem?
So he came out with a big blueprint with a lot of pieces. One of the things I like that he announced in his preliminary budget, I believe about a week ago, is universally funding SYEP, Summer Youth Employment Programs. I think that part of the plan hits it right on the head. We need to get our young folks busy with things that are productive, outlets where they can express themselves in productive ways. And number two, adding more funding for cure violence sites. Cure violence is one of the things my organization has fought for very hard. It was founded around 2015, 2014. Actually, Public Advocate Jamani William, then council member Jamani William, helped bring the program to the city. And just to explain it really briefly, credible messengers, people from the community who've had challenging past or been impacted by gun violence, reach out to those youth who may be high risk, reach out to those community members who may be high risk and mediate before the problem explodes. So I think the Summer Youth Employment Program, giving our young people things to do in the summer and also get some income, and cure violence sites, funding that more fully and invest in that much more. I think those 2 points really get to the root causes of violence, which is, again, poverty and joblessness.
But I can hear them across the city already saying, wait a minute, throwing money into that may not get it done because, the guy who's committing this crime in the subway is 48 years old. What's the summer jobs program going to do for him? How's that going to solve our problem? How would you respond to that sort of critique?
That's a good question. And I think it goes back to my earlier point of trying to help that individual at an earlier point. By the time he's 48, by the time he's on the platform thinking of pushing another New Yorker, it's already too late. We do need to intervene. We do need to make sure, even if we didn't get someone the services and the help they need early on, we need to come in at a later point. That is true. But I think just throwing more police in the subway and just coming at it with an iron fist, I don't think is the answer. Actually, last year, there was 3 shootings in Times Square, one of the most heavily policed areas in the entire United States. So just throwing police, having a omnipresence police force is not the solution. We need to have a more holistic approach.
And what do you think about that, Eric?
I agree with what you're saying here, but part of this plan that the mayor seems to be throwing out, I mean, can't speak to policy, but so much. But from what I'm hearing, it's reinventing the CPOP officer. If you think about the community officer back when I was a younger guy, there are more officers around. So when you are on the train, you see an officer that, hey, how you doing, sir? How are you? And that officer, that is his or her post. They interact on a daily basis. Those strap hangers who travel every single day to work, they know that Officer Johnson is here in the train station, which builds some type of sense of security. I think that's one of the main issues when it comes to a program like that, flooding the train stations. The flip side of that, and I do agree that summer youth is important. It takes our youth from being in the house playing, Roblox and stuff, to actually learning a skill, a trait. That's a wonderful thing. When you talked about even the CURE program, I work with guys all the time, guys who have done, some time, guys who've come out and want to revamp their image, and they become liaisons between the community and the department. It's a great program. The issue that I have with that is that it's not being received because the youth that these CURE members are supposed to be reaching out to have now, in a sense, taken the place of that previous member of the program. So now this is my territory. I don't necessarily have to listen to what you're saying. This is what I see, because I live in these neighborhoods. My community, our community that I grew up in, yes, there was always what we call an OG. It's an older guy who maybe did some time. He come home and still wants to teach us something. He wants to be a liaison. I might not want to hear that. So now I've come up with an idea in our organization, the Guardians Association, whereas we take you, we take you, we take everybody, religious officials, clergy members, and we flood the community with, what's your idea to help? We basically ask them on an individual basis, but you are a prominent figure in the community. If you're coming to ask me what I can do, guess what? I might be more receptive than this guy who just came home, whose spot I probably took, who might not really want to help me. I mean, that's just from growing up in the neighborhood.
I got to ask you a question.
I'm listening.
This is kind of the elephant in the room here on policing in the city. The last mayor had a horrible relationship with the NYPD, and there was a lot of talk about them kind of backing off, saying, hey, why am I going to risk my career, risk my life, for this city when, like they're not backing me and people are throwing water at me out in the streets. Did the NYPD take a step back on enforcement? Is that part of the problem that we have right now?
My personal, what I see growing up I grew up in Bedford-Stuyvesant. I still reside in Bedford-Stuyvesant. What I see is that, guess what? I need your help. Are you gonna help me? Okay. Has nothing to do with the mayor. It's, are you gonna help me? So I don't think we've taken a step back as a member of the department. I don't think that the community truly thinks that. But what I do think is that there's such a rift, there's such a disconnection, whereas no one knows really how to break that rift. I heard someone say on the radio, in order to stop a war, both parties have to come together and say, hey, let's stop the war. One side can't, and that's what we have.
So how do you do that?
I don't really know. I have to be very honest.
I think that's something that's eluded all of us.
Everybody. And think about how long we've been having this same conversation. This is not brand new. This is not something that started last week. This conversation has been going on since slavery. This conversation has been going on since, all these new administrations. How do we? It's our goal to teach our generation, our next generation, and for our next generation to receive what we're teaching.
And what are you hearing from our youth, Jibreel, on this whole issue of interacting with police and crime?
From the folks I talk to in Canarsie and my community, they just really want an outlet. They just really want to have a space where they can focus on their dreams and aspirations. Again, the pandemic has had a devastating effect on our communities. The same communities where it was historically disinvested by the government is the same communities where the pandemic hit the hardest. So those youth, they're feeling a sense of hopelessness. That's why I'm so pleased by the administration truly investing in some youth employment programs. And we need to listen to the youth and give them more outlets. Eric said something about, we're at a war. I think, the real war and the real crime is government disinvestment. We're investing so much, billions of dollars into the NYPD. There are so many other programs, so many other things that society is dealing with. Homelessness, all-time high. Poverty, all-time high. Folks are having trouble putting food on the table. I can tell you in Canarsie, the lines have grown longer in terms of food insecurity. So all that plays an effect. Someone's home, their mom or dad has to go to a food giveaway to come home and bring food on the table. Youth notice that. That brings stress into their household. So I just think, really to answer your question, what the youth want, they want a place to be able to go and work on their dreams and aspirations. And so many times in this community, the bar is set too low for them. The bar is set way too low for them. I speak to people on the block. They have big dreams. They have huge dreams, but they don't have an outlet for it.
We're out of time for the segment, but I got to ask you both. Are you hopeful?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. That's going to have to do it. Crime in the city will certainly be something that we'll keep an eye on in the coming weeks and months. I want to thank our guest, Jibreel Jalloh, the president of the Flossy organization, which was created to empower Canarsie residents, and the vice president of the Guardian Association, and an NYPD detective, Eric Blake. Thank you to both of you. We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we'll look at turning lives around through a vehicle that has criminalized so many people of color over the years, cannabis or pot, and how one man turned his life around after being arrested. Stay with us. I'm Mike Gilliam, and this is Let It Rip.
You're watching CUNY TV, the City University of New York.
Welcome back to Let It Rip. I'm Mike Gilliam. The war on drugs wreaked havoc on minority communities. It was a form of prohibition, and a lot of people went to jail for possession and sale of marijuana. Now that's all changed. Marijuana is legal in New York and 17 other states and D.C., and it's decriminalized in another 13 states. It's a big business across the country, and right here at CUNY's Medgar Evers College, They're working to make sure those hurt most by incarceration and the war on drugs are positioned to reap some of the benefits of legalization. Medgar Evers is the first CUNY campus to offer a cannabis minor degree program. It's called Introduction to the World of Cannabis, and it's a prerequisite for other cannabis courses in a degree program. Joining us now, we have the Executive Director of the Cannabis Education Task Force at Medgar Evers College, Vikiana Clement, and the task force's Deputy Director, Joel Strothers. Welcome to both of you.
Hi, welcome. Thanks for having us.
Good to have you here. Vikiana, it's important to offer a program like this, and why?
We see that there are a lot of pieces within this industry that really need to be tackled. So that's one reason why we created this minor degree program with 4 different tracks. One focused on cultivation, one focused on testing and formulations, one focused on commercialization, and one focused on health, because we want to be able to really provide all that knowledge to our students. In addition to that, it was created not by professors in silo, but our team went and conducted different research initiatives, spoke to different industry leaders, and really it was a cohesive, collaborative effort with academia and industry, which is an important way, I think, that many different departments should move forward in pedagogy, because industry is usually the last part admitted into academia, or vice versa, and then academia falls behind.
You kind of touched on something that I had wondered about concerning the program, and that is that this is more than just learning how to work at a dispensary or possibly open a dispensary.
Yes, so this program really prepares students not only if they want to open a dispensary, but really in the cannabis industry, there are so many ancillary sectors and supportive sectors that provide somewhat of a sustainable operation at this time in the places where it is legalized. And those ancillary sectors are very important. And being that our community has been very abused by the war on drugs, this is one way where they can really take charge and really cause a lot of change within their economic brackets.
Joel, your story is very inspiring. You were arrested as part of the war on drugs, but you've kind of used cannabis to really kind of turn your life around, right? Tell us a little bit about that in your journey.
Well, first I'll start with the communities. We lack opportunity. And one way you can further remove opportunity is arrest somebody for cannabis. So my experience, my first exposure to the system was playing basketball with 10 friends. Officer planted marijuana on the floor and took all 10 of us in a paddy wagon. And they called sweep days. Tuesdays and Thursdays was those days. Since then, I was traumatized. Many of us were traumatized. And a lot of us were convinced for us to go home by the DA is that we would have to take this charge. And we're traumatized as kids. So we didn't want to go and let our parents know we've been arrested.
How old were you?
I was 12, 13, and it happened several times. So you cop out to these charges. And then what happens, you limit your opportunity. You can't be a doctor, you can't get financial aid, and et cetera and so on. So now you're in a community where you're repressed, you're depressed about opportunities, and now it becomes a place where you just have to figure out how to maintain your life when opportunities has been taken through cannabis. So this initiative came about from my side, just reflecting on that. I went through the system, I was incarcerated. I came home, I earned my GED. I had no education prior to that. I had maybe 3 years from kindergarten to high school. From there, I enrolled in Medgar Evers College after I turned my life around. It took me several years to pass my GED. I earned it, and then I went to remedial classes through Medgar Evers College, and it took me about 7 years to complete college. From there on, I was able to accomplish a lot by fighting for opportunities. I published 7 scientific journals. I had internships with international experience. I worked with NASA, Goddard Space Flight Center.
And where are you now?
Now I'm earning my PhD at Princeton University, studying civil and environmental engineering.
That's great. Congratulations to you.
Thank you.
That's excellent. Let's talk about this program a little bit more. What are some of the things people will learn?
So a person can choose from one of 4 tracks or all tracks. If you want to learn in cultivation, you can learn how to cultivate not only in farmlands, but also because New York is an urban area, how to cultivate in an urban environment in an environmentally sound way, because that is a very big point in a very big factor that affects cultivation is our environmental science sphere. The other things they can learn in terms of commercialization is how to be an entrepreneur, the different basics about the industry that already exist, which are, for example, MSOs, major state operators. What are those? People do not understand sometimes the system already in place, and they need to be aware of it in order to succeed. They also understand standard operating procedures. These are procedures that you have to be able to understand how they flow in any company, and for the cannabis industry, they're specific ones. In addition to that, we also collaborated with the nursing department, so the health track allows you to explore not only the different ways that cannabis affects you as in your body physically, but also mentally, because cannabis is an amazing medical tool, but it's not for everyone, and more research is needed. And so that's also an exploratory avenue that we've provided with the health track. And then finally, we have one of the best ones, I think, which is the testing and formulations track, which is basically you have to be able to test the plant, decipher what kind of cannabinoids are in there, THC, CBD, the percentage. Is there any pest on the plant itself, because you don't want to ingest pesticides? And so there's just an entire field of testing that we're going to be also offering our students. And as well, in our chemistry and environmental science department, we are fully equipped with all the machines needed. And my buddy here, Joel, he knows about all of these. He messes with them at Princeton all the time.
Okay, let me ask Joel a question here. So, you know, this whole legalization thing, a large part of it was to make sure that we leveled the playing field, that people who were hurt now reap the benefits. What would you say to the person that says, whoa, wait a minute. Now, for me to be able to get involved in this, I have to go to Medgar Evers? I have to go to school to do this? You know, why can't I just set up shop?
Well, so the program is also in tangent with also community aspects and in mind. So what we're working on too as well is looking at certificate programs. We know that the maybe traditional person may not want to do a degree-bearing program or a certificate-bearing course. So there are other opportunities that we're also looking at, like, hey, certification programs. And we also want to help them transition into that. Not everybody see fit as college is the ideal. One of the
it could seem like another hurdle for a person who's on the street dealing.
Yes,
right?
Absolutely. So just having that access, so having a resource center for access to know this information, to say, hey, I would like to transition from the legacy market to the illicit market, right? Mm-hmm. So just having those options available. One of the best ways to just have that argument was through education. And this allowed us to set up better pipelines to address these issues. I think that it's a great opportunity for the younger generation, who's of age, of course, to maybe look at as another route to education. Look into cannabis, and that can possibly stop some of the violence, because some of the traditional people now, younger generation, may not want to go to school because they may not have an interest in the business or the sciences like I do. So maybe the exposure of cannabis and being an entrepreneur, or taking some of their entrepreneurial skills and applying it to the cannabis market, may serve some interest. And that can possibly be a way to limit some of the violence in the community with the youth.
This is not legal at the federal level. It is in New York, but they move very slowly. How do you see the politics fitting into all this? What should be happening?
But it's always going to be a challenge with politics in every area. My mother told me 3 things is guaranteed in life: politics, death, and taxes, right? So, and it's a huge hurdle. But I think we just have to have more open mind discussions about this space, be receptive to what you can change. And I think moving forward, if we implement that and have those discussions, I think there's a chance that we can maybe move forward with the federal legalization.
Okay, good. That's going to have to be the last word. I want to thank our guests, the Executive Director of the Cannabis Education Task Force at Medgar Evers College, Vikiana Clement, and the Task Force's Deputy Director, Joel Strothers. Thank you to both of you. We're going to take a quick break, and I'll be back with some final thoughts. I'm Mike Gilliam, and this is Let It Rip.
You're watching CUNY TV, the City University of New York.
Now for some final thoughts on crime. There can be no doubt that crime and concerns about its resurgence are a major problem in the city. Getting it under control will be a huge challenge for the Adams administration, a challenge the new mayor will have to address and fix if he's to be successful. But that fix won't be done simply through hyper-policing, nor will it be accomplished by defunding the police or simply moving those without homes from the subways. There are a lot of moving parts to the problem, from mental health to affordable housing to policing and the work of community groups and getting guns and other weapons off the streets. It all needs to come together if we're going to be able to solve the problem and, in turn, bounce back from a pandemic that has negatively affected all of us. It's been said that we can't come back fully if people in the city don't feel safe. Right now, it feels that getting to that point will take a lot of hard work from a lot of different people. Let's hope it all comes together sooner rather than later. I'm Mike Gilliam. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time on Let It Rip.